Good day everyone, I'm in Stirling today and I'm going to show you around the National Trust for Scotland Battle of Bannockburn Historical Centre. I'm going to take a walk around and show you some points of interest. So here we go folks.
So, we've seen why the battle had to happen, we've seen how it happened. Okay, we're going to go into our map room now, we're going to go through the actual events and fighting as well. Now, to do that, we're going to go down the dark, narrow corridor. Watch your footing as we're going along. I've not lost anyone yet today. Okay, I'd rather like to keep it that way. But if you'd like to follow me right now, we'll get going.
This is part 2 of the Battle of Bannockburn historical battle experience and visitor centre production.
Sharp corner to the left. Well then, gentlemen, can I get you to put yourselves on this side of the balcony space? Make sure you can see down across that map. I'm going to get downstairs into the cockpit and get you started. Well then, gentlemen, before we get started, does anyone need chairs on the way back? Right then, this is the Stirling and Bannockburn area as it would have appeared in the mid-14th century. Every single hill, river, furrow, the wet ground down here, the trees over here, even up to Stirling Castle and its crag, is exactly as it would have appeared in May to June of 1314. So this is our battlefield. Just align yourselves on the map, northwards is that direction, which is really confusing, but in reality, northwards is actually over there. So, I could have at least orientated the map the right way around. Flip it 90 degrees to the left, you'll be pointing the right way. However, if you go up and have a look at the monuments later on, you'll be able to tell exactly which way is north. You'll be able to see Stirling Castle peeking out through the trees. Where are we on the map? Our battlefield centre is just over here, in the middle of the new park, in the middle of the battlefield. From where we are up to Stirling Castle, it's about 3.5 miles. Now I'm going to talk for about 10-15 minutes at the very most while I'm going on. If either of you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. I do get sick of my own voice. This is tour number 3 of 5 today. So by 5 o'clock this afternoon, I will have gone out. If you've got a question, no matter how weird, wonderful, deranged it might be, and believe you me, I've heard absolutely everything in this room, either shout it out or stick a hand up. That's what I'm here for. Really don't mind. Even if you've got to interrupt then, gentlemen, okay, if you've got a question, okay, just ask. Okay, that's why I'm here. Now, in 1314, the most northerly isolated English castle in Scotland is Stirling up there on its volcanic front. Stirling Castle is so important because, of course, it overlooks Stirling Bridge, the only viable crossing point on the medieval Forth River. Hold the bridge, you control all traffic moving north to south through Scotland. So the castle and the bridge are the prizes for the Battle of Bannockburn. Now in June of 1314, Stirling Castle has been besieged for the past 6 weeks from Cambuskenny Abbey by the Scots army. The people in the castle know the chance of an English army coming north and saving them is zilch. It's not going to happen. So the Scots deliver an armoured ultimatum. If Stirling Castle is not believed by Midsummer's Day 1314, it will automatically fall to the Scots army. So a challenge for battle has been given and Robert Bruce, King of Scots, accepts. He needs to raise an army. That Scots army is going to number anywhere in the region between 6 and 10,000 men. They'll move from the King's Park over here into the new park and on the balcony ridge, where for the next 6 weeks they're going to train in their battle lines, forming a battle plan and awaiting that English invasion. Now whenever the second King of England hears about this deal for Stirling Castle, well naturally he's not very pleased. He raised his own English army of anywhere between 18 and 24,000 men. That army though is not just English. It also has members from Scotland and from Ireland, Wales, France, Germany, Italy, Switzerland, Denmark, Holland, Belgium and Spain. The list goes on. They're from all over the place. They are not just from England. Post-Brexit Britain could certainly learn something. So, this army marches north. They get here by the afternoon of Sunday, the 23rd of June, 1314. Now, as soon as they get here, they see they've got a number of obstacles in their way. So, First and foremost, the Bannockburn itself right here. Now at its lowest, down here at Milton Ford, where the Premier Inn is today, is about 5 feet. You can hop across that. That's not an issue. Move eastwards though, you then encounter the Great Ditch. That is a 40-foot chasm. It's steep, it's slippery, it's impassable. Try crossing that, you will fall flat on your face. Still there today, okay? So, if you can't cross over there, that forces you further eastwards down here onto the carts. Nasty, horrible, wet ground to this day. In the summer though, it is going to bake hard, and it is a good campsite. There's fresh water down there, so you can water your horses and your men. Good start. You've also got protection on all 3 sides, so the Scots can't get around you. That's even better. But best of all, plenty of open ground to form an army. So by all accounts, that's actually not too bad. The big problem is, though, is that when 24,000 boots are continuously tramped across that ground and churned it up, just when you've rugby field, that's going to turn to mud. It will turn to swamp. Horses will get stuck down. Finally crossing that, you then encounter the Pell Stream Burn. Running through St Ian's is all but disappeared today. It's retreated underground, but it will hem the English army in. Finally getting over all that, the English army will be on firm ground up here on Broom Bridge, give battle to the Scots over here in the King's Park, and hopefully finally relieve Stirling Castle. Sounds simple, I assure you it is. The English army arrives at 3:30 on Sunday, the 23rd of June 1314, and already they've got enough to follow. Down here at the ford, the Scots have set up traps. Now, if the English army continues up that road through the traps, what's going to happen? It's going to create a big traffic jam on the motorway. There'll be carnage. It'll slow them down. That's not a price you can pay. So most of the English army is going to move off to the east, down here onto the pass, to camp, and hopefully get back on the way home. However, scouting ahead, a small party of English knights does manage to get through those traps. Amongst the number is a 22-year-old knight, Henry de Bohun. De Bohun wants to make a name for himself. At the front of this party, he can see that off in the distance, there's a lone horseman on a pony. The big man himself, it's Robert Bruce, and he's all on his own. Now it's a prime opportunity, and De Bohun decides to go and take him out. The rest is legend, going to see more of it in the exhibition later on. Henry de Bohun gets an axe in the face for his troubles. It ruins his day. First blood stops. Meanwhile, another party of English knights now move down here onto the cast, only to see that off in the distance around St Ninian's Church, which is where Little is today, is a party of Scots infantry that's completely unprepared. If those English knights charge into that unit and break it, they're going to separate Robert Bruce over here, not only from the rest of his army, but also from Stirling Castle, and from his retreat route to the northwest as well. They could break the back of the Scots army here and now. So it's make or break time, those English knights are going to charge in. Before they can hit the Scots at St Ninians though, the Scots have formed a Shortram formation. Now we saw some Shortrams outside earlier on, but Shortram in Old Scots basically means a thicket. Really thick, thorny, spiky hedge. That's a really good description of what those formations actually look like. So imagine a big block of men. There's 1,000 men in each one. They're in 6 to 12 ranks, 6 to 12 rows. Each one of them is carrying a 16 to 18 foot long pike, a big spear. It's basically a human hedgehog used to kill and combat cavalry. Now a horse is an intelligent beast because it knows it's probably not a good idea to run onto a sharpened stake. It's not good for your attack. The knight on top of that horse though, he's pretty thick. What he's going to try and do 9 times out of 10 is charge into that block of men, get in amongst their ranks, make a big hole, burst them apart, and wipe them down. Now that's exactly how Edward I managed to beat William Wallace at Falkirk on the 22nd of July, 1298. Now in the 17 years between Falkirk and Bannockburn, the English army has not learned a better way of breaking up these formations. So once again, those English knights are going to charge in. Guess what? They can't find an opening. They spend the next 6 hours riding around that block of men, kicking up the dust, not really achieving very much at all. It's a bit useless. By nightfall, it's become pretty obvious that on day one, the Scots have been victorious. They have forced the English army back here onto the cast where they will camp for the night and give battle the next day. Squeezed like a can of sardines between the Pell Stream to their front and the Bannockburn to their rear. The English army down there in the cast is now completely surrounded. Now, it has been a bad first day for the English army. They've lost 2 fights. That's bad enough. What is worse is that now the English commanders are arguing, so much so that no proper battle plan can be arranged. The knights have been so useless on day 1, they're going to stay at the front, whereas the infantry, the archers, the guys on foot that now need to be brought forward to break up those Scots short-term formations, they're still stuck at the back. So not only is our English army completely surrounded, they're now also back to front as well. That's even worse. Something else, though, has now happened, because in that English army there was a young Scots knight, and his name is Alexander Seaton. Now, previously, Seaton has actually served under Robert Bruce as a steward for his lands in Yorkshire. So, long and short of it, Seaton's a bit of a turncoat. He now decides it's probably a good idea to go and change sides again. So, Seaton is going to go from the English army straight over to Robert Bruce, and he tells him this: you fight the battle tomorrow, and there is no doubt about it, you will win. That English army down there is tired, it's hungry, it's fed up, and it's ready to go home. Charge down in the morning, and I can guarantee that English army is going to break and scatter. That is exactly what Robert Bruce decides to do. 4 a.m. on the 24th of June, in 8 big blocks, the Scots are going to form up on Balcony Bridge, and they smash straight down into the English line down on the carpets. The English army waking up to this doesn't know what to do. Now, the Earl of Gloucester in his knights the previous day has been called a fool and a coward for not breaking the Scots. He now knows it's his time to shine. In his eagerness to get stuck in, Gloucester will jump on his horse, without his coat of arms, without his armour, nice but dim, and he charges straight into the centre of the Scots line. You guessed it, he gets killed pretty quickly. Serves him right. By doing that, though, he's now punched a big hole through the Scots' left wing, and that allows English archers at the back of the English army to now come round the side to the west and shoot 2 volleys into the Scots flank. They're chased off, though, by Robert Keith's Scots knights, who grant them for the field. All this time, the Scots continue pushing forward, stabbing, skewering, slaughtering everything in their path. It's a bloodbath down there. Now, by this point, the knights have now churned up that ground. It's turned into a swamp. More men are dying in the mud and the blood and the water than are being killed by the Scots. So the English army, now seeing they're not making any forward progress against the Scots whatsoever, decide it's now time to cut and run and save the losses. They're going to try and pull back across the burn to the southeast in a northerly fashion to fight them there. They get stuck, though, in this bottleneck right here. In the rush and the crush and the panic to get away, between 7,000 and 8,000 Englishmen get thrown in the burn, crushed under the weight of their armour and drowned, so they can walk across the burn without even getting your feet wet on the backs of their bodies. It's a human bridge down. Edward's army is broken, and that is before sunrise. Fighting has barely lasted now. Now, in comparison, the Scots have only lost maybe between 200 and 900 men. It's still a lot of people. In the grand scheme of things, it's certainly only points. Edward II has now lost everything. He's dragged kicking and screaming away from the fighting straight up to Stirling Castle, but as soon as he gets there, he's told to get lost. The castle is captured and Edward is in it. The ransom price will be Scotland and Northern England, or bankrupt. That's not a price Edward of Carnarvon is willing to pay. The King of England is forced to retreat down the southwest side of the battlefield, down the line of the M9 to the Nithgo, North Dunbar, which he reaches by about lunchtime. Dunbar's 60 miles away. He takes ship from there back to safety in Berwick, leaving a third of his army dead here on the fields of battle. In the 3 weeks after the battle, Robert Bruce is up here at Stirling Castle, tearing it down, slicing it, so it can never be held against him again. In November of that year, 1314, Bruce is back here at Cambuskeneth Abbey, Parliament is held, and he's finally proclaimed true King of Scots. But it is going to take another 14 years, blood, sweat and tears, before Scotland finally is recognised as an independent nation. That is the Battle of Bannockburn as it happened in 1314. Lots and lots of information to take in. Before we go any further, do either of you have any questions? Good. Stay where you are. You're going to come and collect from the high ground.
Excuse me, how did they manage to feed themselves with all this movement?
They don't feed themselves. You get paid, you get fed for the first 6 days of a campaign. Afterwards, you are expected to beg, borrow, steal, everything to provide for yourself.
Good.
There's a good incentive, basically, okay, to go and win your battle. If you don't win your battle, you don't get paid, basically. So you're enacting chevauché tactics. You're imposing yourself upon the population of an enemy territory, and by doing that, naturally the people you are oppressing are going to come over to your side for protection, basically. So it's basically running a protection method. But armies in the 14th century, there was no infrastructure to keep them permanent, so they don't get paid, they don't get fed. Winning a battle and taking the loot from the battlefield, that is the way you basically win a campaign and feed your troops.
So a lot of them may have perished because of hunger.
No, it wouldn't have been hunger, okay, because as they come north, okay, they're going through towns, they're going through enemy territory, and they are looting, stealing, burning absolutely everything, and taking their provisions and using that to feed the army as well. Okay, does that make some sense?
Certainly does.
Fantastic. Okay then, gentlemen. Bannockburn is not the end of the First Scots War of Independence. After the fighting finishes here on the 23rd of June, the fighting and the war will continue for another 14 years afterwards, with victories and losses on both sides. We're going to look at why it takes so long for a lasting peace to be established between England and Scotland, if there is any peace, and what the ultimate consequences of the war are as well. After this, I'm going to duck out for a couple of minutes. Don't worry, I'm not abandoning you to the dark. As soon as your film's finished, I'll come back to let you take you on to the final bit of your talk. So, enjoy.
Yep. After the battle.
The filthy lines pushed forward, and Edward's army had no room to manoeuvre. The crush became so bad that Edward's army fled across the Bannockburn. The burn was steep, and many died trying to make it across. So many that, after a while, the burn could be crossed with dry feet. The shocked King Edward had to be dragged by his horse's reins from the field. Edward fled to Stirling Castle, but was denied entry. He was chased east of Bar, where he escaped by ship to England. Edward's baggage train, now undefended, was plundered by the victorious, allowing more survivors to flee the field. The thousands lying dead on the battlefield, there was valuable armour and weaponry to collect. The encampments were dismantled, leaving very little trace. Many English knights were captured and their lives spared a ransom. An exchange of prisoners ensured the release of Elizabeth, who was being held captive. She was brought to York on her release. Following the great victory, the Scots took the war to the English. 4 years later, Edward's Queen Isabella was repeatedly nearly captured in the same city during a raid far across the border by the victorious forces, who had found a new confidence in striking out across northern England and also English supporters in Ireland. All of which was an attempt to pressure Edward into negotiating with them. There were some who never forgot how the king took the throne. The Pope had excommunicated Scotland in an attempt to stop the fighting, and this needed to be addressed. 50 Scottish nobles gave their support to a letter declaring Scotland as an independent nation and one that should be recognised by the Pope. All the while, some of them were plotting to kill the king and put John Baliol's son Edward Balliol in his place. Still, the traitors were severely dealt with, and eventually France and the Pope recognised the king. In contrast, south of the border in 1321, Edward faced rebellion. His barons were angered by his new favourite, Hugh Despenser the Younger, who masterminded the king's triumph over his rebellious cousin, the Earl of Lancaster. The new regime was unpopular, tyrannical and corrupt, all of which served to take Edward's attention away from Scotland. In 1324, the future of Scotland became more clear because of the birth of twin sons to the king. David was born and lived. The next generation of Scottish royalty. England's monarchy was in trouble, Edward once again thought he could do exactly as he pleased. Queen Isabella abandoned her husband and with a lover, Roger Mortimer, began to plot his downfall. And so her son, Edward III, came to the throne while her husband died a mysterious death. In 1328, Queen Elizabeth of Scotland died. I, Robert Bruce, am now very old and very ill. But today, a treaty was sealed at Edinburgh, which sees it agreed that Scotland is an independent nation, although there can never be any guarantee that this war will end for good. My son, David, will rule Scotland.
For ease of reading the scripts, press the full screen button down in the bottom right hand side of the screen, and you can also pause as well. Excuse me, sir. Well, folks, that was the tour of the National Trust for Scotland, Battle of Bannockburn Centre. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope to see you all on the next journey. TCSS, take care, stay safe. Bye for now.